Sounds good.
So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I know this is being recorded, so y'all may not see me as I give it, but my name is Anthony Murdock II, but I go by Murdock. I'm a purpose-driven, action-oriented servant leader and proud product of Indianapolis, Indiana. I am a Juris Doctorate candidate at the IU McKinney School of Law here in Indianapolis, and I'm the founder of 4 companies here in the city. Won't talk to you about those companies because that's not why they brought me here to talk to y'all today. Why they came to have me talk to y'all today is because I'm in the business of becoming the greatest powerpreneur that Indianapolis has ever seen. And powerpreneurship is the practice, it is the art of strategically leveraging the power in our stories. I believe that when we leverage the power in our stories, even when they get gory, it leads to profit surely. And that profit that I'm talking about is not about the change in my pocket, but about the change that we can collectively make in our communities. That's what it means when I say make it make sense and that sensational impact all across the senses. It's about leveraging the social capital that comes with our stories. And a lot of the work that I do is focused specifically on the power in Black stories. I believe that in that context, stories are the assets that break generational curses and build generational wealth. Something I've learned as a small business owner, as a law school student, and as a powerpreneur in training is that lack of access to capital in a capitalistic society leaves you feeling and being treated like a lowercase letter. And so, like I said, the extent to which people first understand that they have a story, second, understand that there is power in their story. And then once they know they have a story that's powerful, how do they leverage that power to make impact on themselves and the people in their communities? That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm dedicated to. And it's that same principle. It's that same idea. It's that same passion that motivates today's presentation. So if you got a piece of paper and a pencil, a pen and a notepad, or Twitter fingers to type fast, I'm gonna say that a couple times. I like the alliterations. It helps me feel more comfortable and people typically engage with it well. But if you got any of those things, the first thing I want you to write, also know, live transcripts of this session will be available. Also, I was intentional about making sure there was a PDF version of this PowerPoint made available to you. So, and I'm sure that they wanted me to do that because a situation like this might come up. So I'm letting y'all know right now, the content I'm gonna share, there's gonna be a live transcript of this. There's a PDF version of my presentation. So even though I can't share my screen, you're gonna get my information one way or another. So again, the title of today's presentation, Powerpreneurship. Storytelling in action. Again, powerpreneurship, storytelling in action. Real quick, brief recap. Again, the company that I'm working with to be able to partner with Keep Indiana Learning for this incredible summit. Its name is Murdock LLC. Our mission is to empower communities to leverage their stories and fuel efforts for Black liberation through people-centric partnerships and community-driven collaborations. My oratorical mentor says that a text without context is merely a pretext for counting people. And I wanted to provide y'all some great context for today's conversation so we weren't conned out of an incredible opportunity to talk about powerpreneurship, storytelling in action. A little bit earlier, mentioned to you a quote. This could be a great a first piece for your notes, for your Twitter fingers, for that pen and that notepad. The first thing I want you to write down is this quote. Mentioned it earlier, but I'm gonna break it down to a little bit more because it provides great context for today's presentation. You must leverage the power in your story. And I'm gonna try and say it slow because I know y'all can't see the screen right now. And so I don't want to say it too fast that you can't write it. You must leverage the power in your story, even when it gets gory. There you go, I put in the chat for you too. Because it leads to profit surely. You must leverage the power in your story, even when it gets gory, because it leads to profit surely. So you heard me talk about that first part. This idea of the fact that we have stories, they are powerful, and they've got to be leveraged strategically. But then that second part, that clause in between those two commas, look at that. The reason why that's there is because you're just not supposed to leverage the power in that story when life is going swell. You're not just supposed to leverage the power in that story when you know exactly why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. I'm talking about even in the gory times, even we're navigating not one pandemic, not 2 pandemics, not 3 pandemics, but 4 pandemics of our present, that's when you've got to leverage the power in your story, even when it gets gory. And why? Because it leads to profit surely. And again, like I talked about before, that profit is not dollars and cents, but it is that sensational impact across the senses. It's that social capital that's associated with your story. And so when we talk about this idea of powerpreneurship, storytelling, and action, that's the guiding quote. You must leverage the power in your story, even when it gets gory, because it leads to profit surely. So a quick overview of what it is that we're going to discuss today. I'm not going to be in front of you long. Would love to be able to take questions in case Charlie or Courtney happens to have one by the time we're finished, or somebody else happens to jump on. And I'm making the most out of this, Courtney. I'm going to keep dropping my little tidbits and snippets into this chat so that y'all can see it. So that's the table of contents. Table of contents, I just finished my introduction, told you who I am, what I'm doing, and where I'm going. Talk to you about what Murdock LLC does. Talk to you about this principle of powerpreneurship. Gave you the quote that contextualized the presentation. Here's the table of contents. First thing we're going to talk about is the story. The second thing we're going to talk about is the power in that story, and then we're going to bring it right back to the title. We're going to talk about the action. How do you take the story that we've learned is powerful to put it into action for the sake of the most marginalized members in the communities that you serve? So look, if you're there with me, if this is making sense, drop me a "I got it, Murdock." Drop me a "I'm taking notes" in the comment section. You can give me a thumbs up, a smile, or everybody want to turn on their cameras, but give me something, because y'all can tell by now I feed off the energy. Got a lot of excitement. Okay, Courtney, I appreciate you, Courtney. Courtney is taking it for the team today. Charlie, thank you, Charlie. Appreciate the engagement. So let's jump. Let's jump to the first one. Let me see here. I'm gonna see if I can share my screen again. Maybe something popped up. Nope, still down. That's okay though. Ain't nothing wrong with it. So point number one, the story. Point number one, the story. I talked about this before. Stories are your most valuable asset. I think there was a presentation made by one of the keynotes. Prayerfully, the conference sees this session. They're like, I got to get that brother to do a keynote next year, because I think that the keynote spoke to something similar to what I'm talking about right now, right? One, your stories are your most valuable asset. I mentioned it before. I believe that stories, especially Black stories, are the stories that break generational curses and build generational wealth. But it's one thing to have a quote like that. But Brother Murdock, why is that the case? I got 3 reasons. I got 3 reasons why stories are your most valuable asset. First and foremost, nobody else has it. Nobody else has your story. Y'all, there could be people that went to the same schools as you. Me and Courtney, both Butler Bulldogs. Could have grew up on the same neighborhood as you did. Not sure where Courtney grew up, but we probably grew up in different places. We could have same household. I know for a fact I did not grow up in the same household as Courtney. We could be twins. Courtney, you look great, but almost positive we're not twins. My father's also a Boilermaker. Charlie, fantastic. He's a civil engineer. He's a civil engineer. The point, though, is as proximal as we might become, right? We could become twins in what we look like physically, but the sensational impact of your story simply cannot be copied. It cannot be copied. Top tier, number 1 reason why your story is your most valuable asset is because nobody has it. It is genuinely unique. And y'all, there are so many people that live and die to become expensive copies of somebody else and miss the opportunity to leverage their most valuable asset, simply being them. If we want to put storytelling in action, we first got to understand why our stories are our most valuable assets. And it's because first and foremost, nobody else has it. Second point, second reason why your stories are your most valuable asset, because your story is powerful. Beginning of the presentation, I really walked you all through that quote, talking about the power in that story. But I'm going to bring it even deeper for you, right? I'm going to bring it even deeper for you. When I was in college at Butler, Charles and Butler, I was a political science and religion double major, and I loved classes that talked about religion and politics intersecting, especially from a Black lens, because in large part, politics and religion have shaped my experience and I understand myself to be in any and all environments. Something I learned in one of my political science classes was this term vernacular, right? And vernacular is like the dialect. Vernacular is like the word smithing. Vernacular is how we communicate. It's the language that serves as the foundation of culture, right? And I learned the power in words. And y'all know what I realized? That stories are powerful because they're filled with words. And our words have power. They literally sit at the foundation of culture, right? We're living in a time right now, as like I mentioned earlier, we're navigating not one, not two, not three, but four pandemics of our present. We need to dismantle systems that oppress, suppress, depress, and repress the most marginalized members of society. Most of us can agree about that. But you cannot dismantle these systems without creating systems that can dismantle them. Individual people don't break down systems, right? Presidents or states folks or CEOs or community leaders don't dismantle systems. It takes systems to dismantle systems. But if we want to begin constructing systems that can dismantle other systems, it starts with culture. Cultures are what help to create and shift those systems. And what I mentioned before, at the heart of that culture is that vernacular. It's that language. It's the words that we use. And those same words that can fuel cultures, that can build systems to dismantle systems that oppress, suppress, depress, and repress the most marginalized members of this community are the same words that we use to tell stories. Your story is your most valuable asset, not just because nobody else has it, but also because literally your story is filled with power. It is powerful because it's filled with words, y'all. The very words you use to articulate the story are the words that can be used to build cultures, that build systems, that dismantle the systems that have been suffocating so many people for so long. Last but not least, third point on why your story is your most valuable asset. Simplest part, I've already talked about it before. Your story is what accrues social capital, right? That profit I talked about earlier is not about the change in our pockets, but about the change we can make in our communities. I'm talking social capital right there. I'm talking social capital right there. When you understand the power in that story, that power, you can't take that to the bank and get a check back. What you can do is walk into a room and build a relationship, right? Something I learned recently is it's not what you know, it's not who you know. Watch this, Courtney, is who knows you. That's social capital 101. You want to know why your story is the most valuable asset? Because nobody else has it, because your story is powerful and it accrues social capital. That's point number one, y'all, the story. Point number two, right? Going right back to that table of contents. We talked about the story. Now we got to talk about the power. We got to talk about the power. Again, mention this in that quote earlier. Powerpreneurship. It's the art of strategically leveraging the power in story. Y'all heard me say it over and over and over again. But Murdock, you can give me these incredible quotes. You can talk that talk, but give me some takeaways. Incredible question. The three pillars of powerpreneurship, the way in which you strategically leverage the power in your story. What did I do? I just put it in the chat. The three pillars of powerpreneurship. Why I like three so much? This is amazing. Three pillars. First and foremost, time management. The first pillar of powerpreneurship is time management. If you want to put your storytelling into action, if you want to practice powerpreneurship, if you want to create a sense of belonging for the most marginalized members in the community that you serve, we've got to spend our time appropriately, right? We have got to, watch this, schedule according to our priorities instead of prioritizing according to our schedule. I'm going to say that again for you, Courtney, because Courtney here taking notes. I don't know about y'all, but Courtney here, she got the Twitter finger to type fast. She got the piece of paper and the pen. She got the pen and the notepad. I know Courtney's clocked in today. You have got to schedule according to your priorities instead of prioritizing according to your schedule. Murdock, what do you mean? Excellent question. So often, And I know y'all know this as folks in the education space. You get into your office, which is really our desks now on Zoom, right? It's your kitchen table, it's your bed, some of us. You get up into your office, open up your inbox. You got an inbox full of messages. Courtney, can we have an 11 o'clock today? Charlie, can we have a 2 o'clock on Tuesday? Maria, can we have a on Thursday? Hey, team, let's get together on Friday for 4 hours on Zoom and have a bunch of fatigue going into the weekend that you're going to hate. So before you can even set your priorities for the week, people are already trying to take slots on your schedule. And then why do you come home at night talking to your partner, talking to your kids, talking to yourself? Why I feel like I wasted my day away. But you look at your schedule, you got a whole bunch of stuff going on. And it's because the way your time is currently being managed, your priorities don't take precedent. The meetings that other people are scheduling do. If you want to get to a place and space in which your storytelling gets put into action, you got to manage your time. And you got to be able to set priorities that when you look at your schedule, it reflects those things, right? So what does that mean in practice? If you say that your story is something that's powerful, how much time do you spend talking to people who believe the same thing? How much time do you spend developing and better understanding that story? And if you're spending more time with people who don't believe your story is powerful, if you spend more time in environments that degrade the power of your story instead of develop the power of your story, no wonder why it's not going to be put into action. No wonder you won't see the power. First pillar of powerpreneurship is time management. Second pillar of powerpreneurship is peer mentorship. Peer mentorship. It is crucial, it is essential that we begin to relationship build laterally instead of networking vertically. I'll say it again. It is crucial that we begin relationship building laterally instead of networking vertically. Sometimes the encouragement you need to see the power in your story doesn't come from a quote unquote superior. It doesn't come from a boss. It doesn't come from a higher level partner. Sometimes the encouragement, the affirmation, we'll talk about that in a second, that you need to know the power in your story, to realize the power in your story, to leverage the power in your story, comes from the folks in the cubicles right across from you. Comes from the teachers that teach in the same hallway as you. Shoot, sometimes they come from the students that you teach. I'm sure if any of you have ever taught students, sometimes the very thing you needed to continue throughout your day, or your kids, ain't come from the person you thought it was gonna come from. It came from something that one of your kids said, one of your students said. And we spend so much time trying to contort and conform to boxes that weren't meant to fit our personalities and the power in our stories, that you miss opportunities to build with people who are so much more proximal to you. What I term is your peer mentors, right? If you want to understand the power in those stories, if you want to practice powerpreneurship, you got to manage your time, develop real peer mentor relationships. And then lastly, affirmation. Lastly, affirmation. We spend so much time in environments that do more to deny what we believe is powerful about our story, whether you're on social media, watching the news, some of our relationships, the environment that we're in. It's difficult to be in places and spaces, especially now with all this pandemonium, to get a message that says, you still got it. To see a message that says, we're going to get through this. To see a message that says, we're going to get over this hump, and the hump after that, and the hump after that, and the 52 other humps you can't see yet because you're too tired because you just got over 3 humps. And we will spend so much time looking for that from other people. Y'all, we got to create that for ourselves. You got to create that for yourselves. If you want to realize the power in your story, we got to practice affirmation. And again, I'm not saying you got to wake up 3 hours early before you go to work and spend time out in the grass with the mildew and the bees, having conversations with trees. I'm not saying that at all. If that's what you do, then that's what you do. I'm talking about something as simple as, this is my affirmation. Affirmation I tell myself every day. I say that loving yourself is a revolutionary action and you are worth the revolution. That's the affirmation I tell myself each and every day. Loving yourself is a revolutionary action and you are worth the revolution. And I won't get too deep into the politics of that affirmation because I want you to find one for yourself. But the spirit of that quote, the spirit of their affirmation is telling me that, Murdock, I don't care Who says you're not worth protecting or respecting? Who says that you should be neglected? Who says that you're dangerous or not even seen as human, that your life doesn't matter? I don't care who tells me that. I'm going to tell myself that loving myself is a revolutionary action. And guess what, y'all? I'm worth the revolution. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is insane. And the things that we've done up to this point is what got us here. And I tell you right now, I ain't finna keep doing what's been done to keep moving forward, because that ain't, you can't even see progress that kind of way. So engage in the revolution of personal values. Decide to affirm yourself instead of looking for it to come from other people, places, and things. Be the noun that you need. Be the person that you need. Become the place that you need. Become the thing that you need. If you want to become a powerpreneur, you want to practice powerpreneurship, it takes time management, takes peer mentorship, takes affirmation. Last one, y'all, we bringing it home. Again, the name of the session was Powerpreneurship, Storytelling and Action, right? We talked about the story. We talked about why it's your most valuable asset. We talked about the power in the story. We talked about powerpreneurship and the 3 pillars. Now, got to talk about the action. We got to talk about the action. How do you put these powerful stories into action to create those senses of belonging for your most marginalized members? Watch this. I got a quote for you. Knowledge, like stories, become powerful when shared. You know, I'm going to put it in the comment section for you, Courtney. Knowledge, like stories, become powerful when shared. You know, so often, like I said, even growing up, I always heard the quote, knowledge is power, knowledge is power, knowledge is power, right? And that's in line with something I'm sure we were all taught and may even unintentionally continue to express, that education is key, education is key, education is key. And you're right. People walking around ignorant, making stupid decisions, education is definitely necessary. But y'all, if we want to see that change in our communities that we need amidst all these pandemics, it's not enough for Courtney to read a book that radically changed how she saw the world and then don't share with nobody. Because what good is it? What good is it then? If Courtney read something that Courtney's like, yo, it changed my whole life, and then Courtney don't tell nobody about it, what good is that? What good is that? Because that book ended up in Courtney's hand, which came to Courtney's eyes, which went back to Courtney's mind, and impacted the way Courtney saw the world for a reason. And Courtney doesn't exist by herself. Courtney exists in the context of people who are inside of her community. And if she doesn't share that information with other people, how does it leave? How does it make the impact that we need? Knowledge, like stories, become powerful when shared. We go through what we go through to get to where we're meant to. Your story is your story for a reason. In your story, the things you've been through, you went through them for a reason. Because someone understood, you know what? I may have been able to put somebody else to this kind of a predicament, this kind of a learning experience, this kind of a victory, and they would have responded this way. But I wanted Charlie to go through this. I needed Charlie to go through, because I knew that when Charlie goes through this experience, I know that when Charlie has a story like this, then Charlie's going to tell Maria, and Maria's going to tell Courtney, and Courtney's going to tell Murdock, and Murdock's going to tell Carrie, and Carrie's going to tell Lena. And before you know it, there are these people who have learned something they didn't even know was a lesson, simply because you decided to share your story. And y'all, there's so many lessons that we needed to learn that we didn't learn until it was a little bit too late, because someone didn't tell us in advance. Y'all ever had that experience? People who I thought was a role model or a mentor to me watched me stumble and fall, traumatize myself, knowing full and well what was going to happen, and didn't share it with me. Not because they were trying to teach me, not because they wanted me to go. No, they just decided not to share it because they didn't understand how their experiences could better improve mine. Don't be that person. We got to put storytelling in action. And to put it in action, you first got to realize that knowledge, like stories, become powerful when shared, right? Now, again, breaking that down a little bit deeper, 3 points. And y'all should know this. Y'all should know this. This elementary. Learned this, I think, when I was in like the 1st or 2nd grade. It may have been 3rd or 4th. Point is, elementary school, learned about this. Never left it. I've used it from elementary school to law school. I'm about to get a doctorate in the law, and I'm using it even now. Story to story, story to self, story to world. So when I was in elementary school, we would read these books and they'd be like, text to text, text to, yo, guess what? The same thing applies for this. It's story to story, story to self, and story to world. If you want the action, if you want to put storytelling in action, apply it like you do any text. First, connect your story to somebody else's. See the ways in which your experience of this thing called life, this journey down life's highway, see how that's similar or dissimilar to somebody else's. It's going to help you better understand what it is you're going through. When you understand the different privileges and oppressions, the way in which power is exerted, you exert power on yourself or other people, impacts your experience, I promise you, that's called cultural competency. I promise you, when you realize those things, it drastically changes how you see this world. Story to story. Then what? Story to world. To what extent does my story connect with what's happening outside of me? To what extent can I watch it? I'm going to say the same thing I've been saying. Leverage that power in my story. Even when it gets gory because it leads to profit surely. When you're able to connect the things that you've been through to the world that's around you, you make for a better world. And it's not even just a better world for you, but it's a better world for the people that you love, that you care about. And then lastly, story to self. Y'all, I'm 25 years old. I just turned 25 like 2 weeks ago, right? And again, I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be at 25. One of my goals is to be 35. To be a black man in this country, you ain't supposed to make it past 18. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful to make the 25. Thankful. But I'm gonna tell you this right now. Even at 25, it's so many lessons that I'm just now getting simply off the strength of when I learned them, when I was going through them, I know what's going on. So take some time to apply your story to yourself. What are some things, some traumas that you've experienced? Some adversity that you didn't run from? Some obstacles that you turned into opportunities because you changed your outlook from looking down in cowardice to up in courage? Look at those things and apply it to yourself and say, what can I learn from this? And then when you get the story to story, you learn something. The story to self, you learn something. Story to world, you learn something. Then share it. Share it with the people. Because while your story is your most valuable asset because nobody has it, what I can tell you is that your learning experiences are most definitely somebody else's lesson. The things that you learn about your life are the lessons for somebody else's. And don't short them of the opportunity to navigate the potholes that you've navigated. Don't make them pop the same tire on the potholes that pop your tire just because you mad that your tire got popped. We got to share them, y'all. Because if we believe that knowledge is power when it's shared, then stories are powerful when they share too. That's how we make it make sense. So look, I'm bringing it home now. I know we're at 11:33. I'm bringing it home now for y'all. I was able to talk my talk today. I definitely was. I'm a little bit hot. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been giving a lot of energy. But I want to give y'all the concrete takeaways, give you a quote, and then shut it down, take any questions y'all might have. I got 4 takeaways for you. I'm really just trying to, Courtney, I'm trying to get the people nuggets. You know what I'm saying? If I know everybody wasn't taking notes like you was, but I'm just trying to get the people nuggets. Everybody that's listening to it, I'm trying to give you things to take away to the students that you serve, to your coworkers, to your family, to your friends. I'm trying to give y'all things to take away, putting storytelling into action. 4 takeaways. All right. Takeaway number 1. The power in your story starts to, matter of fact, I'm gonna keep dropping them and pasting them. The power in your story starts to impact the lives of others when you choose to share it with the world. That's takeaway number 1. I'm putting in the chat for y'all right now. Takeaway number 1. The power in your story starts to impact the lives of others when you choose to share it with the world. Y'all, if you don't share it, it can't impact nobody else. Takeaway number 2. Takeaway number 2. Putting it in the chat for y'all right now. I talked that talk today. You know what I'm saying? I tried to organize it in a way that was easy to follow. Takeaway number 2. If you're looking to make a positive impact on those around you, whether it be your students or your colleagues, focus on the story. Focus on the story. You're never going to go wrong when you focus on the story. You want to know how to put storytelling into action? Y'all better understand that story. Takeaway number three. Takeaway number three. Dropping in here. Your story isn't powerful because it's perfect. Your story is powerful because nobody else has it but you. That's a word right there. Your story is not the bomb.com because you didn't make any mistakes. Matter of fact, your story is all the more greater because of the mistakes and mishaps that were not random but relevant in your life. The very reason that you failed that course, the very reason why that relationship didn't work, the very reason why you didn't get that job, the very reason why that house that you bought ended up having a problem and you had to go back to the apartment that lived there for 6 more months in the middle of a housing crisis is the reason why your story is so fantastic. It's what makes you who you are. And so often we look at, I talked about, I gave a little quote earlier, y'all, obstacles become opportunities when we change our outlook. And when you look at the imperfections in your story, not as issues, but as interesting opportunities, y'all, all the power is there. And it becomes another testimony, another opportunity to say, you know what? I went through this and I made it through. I didn't do it perfectly, but I made it through. So guess what? So can you. Last one, takeaway number 4. Takeaway number 4. Last one. Drop it in the chat. Centralizing the stories of the students you serve in your curriculum and practices are keys to success in the social, emotional learning space. I'm going to say it again. Centralizing the stories of the students you serve in both your curriculum and practices are keys to success in the social, emotional learning space. Y'all, I talked about it at the beginning, I talked about it in the middle, and I'm reiterating it at the end. The story, you know what? I'm gonna just repeat what I said before. Your story is the asset that breaks generational curses and builds generational wealth. There is nothing, y'all. There is nothing like a story. There's nothing like your story. And there is so much in this world that's powerful. Money is powerful. Sex is powerful. Drugs are powerful. All of these things are powerful. But y'all, it ain't nothing. It ain't nothing like a story. And you know what makes a story even better? When the person telling it knows it's an incredible story. If you want to see success in this space, if you want to create that sense of belonging for the most marginalized members, if you want to put storytelling in action, centralize the stories, yours, the people that you're serving, especially the folks that you, especially your students. Oh, especially your students. Centralize their stories. So often we talk around, we talk through, but very few times do we talk to. And like I said, I'm a Black law student, and I've had the same experience in law school as I did in undergrad, as I did in high school, as I did in elementary school. People was talking through me, talking around me, and validating my experience because I was one of the only ones. I was very few other Black students in that class. And people told me how to feel. People told me what was right. People told me what was wrong. Nobody ever centralized my experience. But now I'm given an opportunity, thankfully, because of the platform that's being created, where I can centralize my own story. And I don't speak for all, but I can definitely speak for me. And there's something you can learn in my story that can be applied to anybody else's. Centralize those stories. So y'all look, never forget, Murdock is about we and not me. And there's not one moment I spend not thinking about us. Thank y'all so much for the opportunity to be able to present. We talked about powerpreneurship, putting storytelling into action. I'm gonna drop my email and my website in that comment section, but I would like to open it up for questions in case anybody has any.
Murdock, everything you're saying is hitting home in like the coolest way for me because so this is like sad, but it's all related. I lost my dad in March and my mom passed away 3 years ago. And so I've been and his funeral's in August, and I've been thinking so hard about the power of the story and how my dad was this remarkable storyteller.
Wow.
And but I have found some things out post him no longer being with us that I'll be like, was he telling the truth when he told us? Or was he just trying to inspire in the right way or communicate a certain message or whatever. So like, maybe it doesn't matter like how truthful the story was, but rather the message that was sent, in telling it. And like, I read, simultaneously, I was reading, Becoming, Michelle Obama's, memoir, and the way she told her stories was so powerful. And it just really got me thinking about how, I've always known that culture surrounds the storytelling. Like that's obviously a way that I was raised, but I don't know. I think about my own legacy with my children and like, how do I get those stories down so that they remember them correctly? Like I'm like, how, like when I think about my dad, I'm like, how did that story go? And I don't, it's really powerful. So from the point of like a daughter, like grieving, that you're really hitting home. But then, I taught and worked in schools for 17 years. I taught the text to text and text to self and text to world stuff. So it is so gratifying hearing someone repeat that back, even if you weren't my student. But the power in knowing who your students are. Like I hope people listen to this, because so now I worked with undergrads for 7 years. I taught at IUPUI, and now I work with teachers. And so I'm constantly like helping people understand like that relationship building that you do, and understanding who these people are that you are trying to connect with is everything to how you convey your message. So I really hope people listen to this, because you are saying what everyone needs to hear. And I think a lot of teachers will say, I don't have time, I have to do this, that, and the other thing. And like, there is time. There's always time to know who you're teaching and what their story is and where they come from, and to help them know, because I really appreciated when you said this, that if part of your story is an obstacle, or maybe something you're not proud of, or whatever, there is so much power in that. So as a mom, I've started telling some stories of my own teenage years that I'm not particularly proud of, but my goal in doing that is to convey messages to my kids, like, anyway, it's just, you're hitting it on so many levels. And so I just really, really appreciate everything that you just said. And your work is crucial. It's really important. So
No, thank you for being so vulnerable, for real. Definitely praying for you and your family. You know what I'm saying? That definitely that's where my mom lost both of her parents, and that definitely impacted her in a different kind of a way.
yeah,
And even in this season, you know what I'm saying? It's tough. And I heard you. He passed in March, but you're having a funeral in August. You know what I'm saying? I heard that. And that's difficult. So definitely praying for you and your family. But then again, like your vulnerability too. Like thanks for being real. And something else, like even if we weren't talking about personal connections or education, I got 4 companies. So we can talk about it from a business perspective too. When you market to everybody, you're marketing to nobody at all.
yeah,
That doesn't mean everybody can't benefit from your product. But if you
yeah,
don't make your product for somebody, nobody's going to get your product.
yeah,
Like somebody wants to have a connection.
yeah,
And so when you talked about, teachers don't have time, and again, that's a whole separate conversation about the way in which educators are overburdened with so many different things that's not even an educator's job to tend to, because some of these educators are also daycare professionals, they're healthcare professionals, they're, you know what I'm saying? So I hear that, but it goes back to the first pillar of powerpreneurship, time management. And it's like, if you don't have time to do that, just understand nothing else that you're going to do is going to be effective. So that has to be priority. You know what I'm saying? Because if you, I talked about, I'm off my soapbox, but was having a conversation the other day. Courtney, you could be dropping all the gems in the world. I'm talking about you touching this quantum physics in 5 words. I'm talking you explaining everything, you breaking it down. But if you're speaking Spanish to someone who speaks Swahili, you could be speaking facts, straight facts. But I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And it's so many people speaking Spanish to people that speak Swiss or German and again, it in no way negates the power of what either person is saying. No one's wrong for speaking one language versus the other. Right. It's like you got to know who you're talking to. And sometimes to bring it home, we also have to be cognizant. Love what you said about the parental piece. Say, I ain't got no kids. But I love what you said there because I'm hearing things about my pops, about my moms that growing up, I never knew. And again, because now's the time to them, right? And it makes me think about when I have children, how am I going to communicate my own story to help them adjust and maneuver? But the other thing about it is, one of the reasons why we have to understand our story is because sometimes you simply sharing your story is traumatic or triggering to somebody else. But if we don't have that relationship, that understanding, that empathy, that cultural competency, that awareness, that emotional intelligence, you could be thinking you're giving people gems. Yeah. When in fact, the way you're saying it, the words you're using to say it, the way in which you're communicating it can be a problem. And if they would just communicate a little bit differently, a little bit more competent, then it's like, yo, but that comes in understanding that power and acknowledging the things that come into play. So I appreciate your vulnerability, Courtney, saying definitely prayerfully people listen, even if it's not for the presentation. Courtney talking that talk, you know what I'm saying? And there's something, I'm sure that if there's something you got from my presentation, it's something you could have got from what Courtney just said too. So thanks for jumping on here, Courtney. Definitely appreciate you.
No, you're my dissertation is all on like I teach people how to teach math. And that is people don't love that. They don't love math, you know? And so so my dissertation is better understanding how to make that happen when people have so many different things going on, you know? So like the whole time you're talking, I'm just like, like the build relationships laterally, like that's what it's all about. You know, like it's the teacher that's gonna learn better than me as the expert coming in and teaching them. You know, like I'll connect with someone. Yes. But they're going to connect with more people because of that lateral position.
Yeah, we can go on for days. No, this is good.
You're awesome. This is amazing. And I also think the reason why you couldn't screen share was my fault. So I'm really sorry about that.
It's all good. Like I said, the PDFs will come later. You know what I'm saying? And then the live transcript will come from this. And like I said, shout out to everybody that tuned in. But I'm just thankful for the opportunity to share my story.
Yeah, it's a good one. So thank you so much, Murdock. Anybody else? Maria, Charlie, no questions, but said thank you, so that's awesome. Anybody else? All right, well, I'm gonna push this, Murdock. I'm gonna tell people, are you on Twitter?
I am.
What's your Twitter?
You know, I don't even share it for real publicly. I'm gonna send you a little.
Sorry, you don't have to do that. Okay.
No, you're all good. I'm gonna send you a little message just so you got it. I just sent it to you. But yeah, thank you. Thank y'all for this opportunity. For real. I definitely appreciate you.
That's awesome. Thank you. And then Charlie, you just asked for a link for PGPs. Where's the link for the PGPs? Let me find that.
The form will also provide you, that's what I was supposed to say too. Please complete the session evaluation. The form will also provide your PGP certificate.
Oh, so yeah. So the link to the evaluation is in the Whova app. I only had that pulled up on my phone, so hold on.
Yeah, let me say that real quick. I have it written on my presentation to say, please complete the session evaluation before exiting. The form will also provide your PGP certificate for this session. So again, Courtney said it's on Whova. Definitely tap into the Whova platform, make that make sense.
I got you though. I can put it in right here. I'll copy it from my thing.
Shout out to Courtney. Courtney out here killing the game today.
Except I logged in all wrong, so you couldn't share your screen. But
so I still share the story though.
You did. And we all learned from it.
We made it make sense. Okay, cool. I think I'm gonna jump off of here though. Appreciate y'all.
Yes, thank you so much, Murdock. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Yeah, Charlie, just click on that link. I just clicked on it. It'll work, and you can go right into, and it says at the bottom if you need PGP points. Hopefully it's working, Charlie. Oh, good.